Hello, I'm Nathalie Dupree. Today on Nathalie Dupree Cooks for Family and Friends, I have a menu that fits fine for any entertaining you might want to do. First, there's asparagus crab soup, followed by roasting chicken with garlic, and then stuffed squash and onion and tomato salad, and finally, a chocolate marbled angel food cake. All of my favorites. I'm sure you want to make all of them. This is a wonderful, entertaining menu, and part of it is that the house smells so terrific. Well, I've got more onion and garlic cooking right now than most people see in a lifetime. It's terrific. Here are the ingredients for this luscious asparagus crab soup. 1 teaspoon of butter, 1 garlic clove chopped, 2 shallots chopped, 6 cups of chicken broth, a pound of small asparagus, as thin as you can get it, a half a pound of flaked crab meat, get some good crab meat, and garnish it with 1/4 cup of chopped green onion greens, and then 1/4 cup of chopped cilantro, if you like it. A lot of people don't. Now, go ahead and melt your butter and add your garlic and your shallots and cook them until they're nice and soft. And you know, a shallot is a very small onion-type root vegetable that's kind of a cross in flavor between an onion and garlic. Then, meanwhile, you bring your asparagus to the boil, and I'm going to cut the small asparagus. What did I say? Chicken stock. Bring the chicken stock to the boil, and then cut your small asparagus into 1-inch pieces. Every once in a while, somebody makes a motion, lets me know that I said something dumb. It's wonderful. I have a lot of good people listening to me. Now, what we're going to do now is boil the asparagus in water. Add the garlic, shallots, and asparagus to the boiling stock. And there we are. That really would have helped if I had turned on the soup stock rather than the onion and garlic. I'd like to have you see it actually go in when it's boiling, but I turned on the wrong thing. And there is the asparagus. Just cook it a couple of minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, just until it's very lightly, crisply done. Then you remove it from the heat. Before you add the crab meat to this, you want to pick over your crab meat. You want to look for shells and things. And then when you're just about ready to serve, when your guests are seated or just before they're seated, return the soup to the boil, add the crab meat, and simmer it just to heat through. You're not going to boil that crab meat. You just want to cook it just enough to heat it through. And then you season it with salt and pepper. And you have to taste that before you serve it because the crab meat is going to change the dimension of it. And you garnish it just as you serve it with your chopped green onion tops and your chopped fresh cilantro. And there's no sense in my doing it in the soup bowl. I'll do it over here on top of this pretty soup. There you are. It's a really nice, simple soup. And as you can see, you can get all the ingredients ready to go and then do them all at the last minute if you want to. And with our current lifestyles, I think a lot of us have to live that way. So you can get the onion and garlic cooked and add it to the chicken broth and then bring it all up to a boil and add your asparagus if you needed to. Now, the roasting chicken with garlic, and this is also in the Putting on the Ritz section of my book. Although it's real hard to say, it's so homey and wonderful, I don't know where you should put it. Now, 2 tablespoons of oil, 2 tablespoons of butter, 50 garlic cloves peeled, 2 onions peeled and quartered, 1 6-pound roasting chicken, that's a big chicken, 3 tablespoons of finely chopped rosemary or tarragon or marjoram, or thyme if you have it, 2 cups of chicken broth, and then an optional ingredient is a cup of balsamic vinegar. And that's really what puts it into the Ritz section because it's expensive and elegant. Now, to peel your garlic cloves, I heard you say 50. I can see you writing down 50 garlic cloves, Natalie. Yes, 50. And in fact, everybody's been kidding me so much because I've been noshing on them that they've been throwing in extra garlic cloves to be sure that you can see that they're exactly 50. Now, you want to peel these garlic cloves, and that is the worst part of this whole recipe. So you put your unpeeled garlic cloves into boiling water for about 30 minutes and then drain it and pop off the skin. I don't know if you can see this or not. And it should just come right off just like that. You don't want to bruise this garlic up much. They say that that changes the flavor. And if you don't cut it up much now, then it doesn't really give that garlic bite to your dish. So try to keep it whole. Or cook the entire head in the microwave for about a minute at 100%, and then cool it and peel it. And then meanwhile, peel, let me get an onion knife over here, peel and quarter your onion. Go ahead and cut it in half. Put the flat side away from you so you don't cry. And then cut it in quarters yet again. And you want just enough of that little root on there to hold it together. Now, go ahead and get your roasting chicken prepared. You can do this with a smaller chicken, but of course you're not going to be able to get all the garlic cloves in there. And meanwhile, you've got some oil and butter heating in a large frying pan. And add your garlic and your onions to the pan and let them brown slightly. But let me show you how to get this chicken prepared right. First of all, you have to remove all the parts that are in there so that it'll cook all the way through and you'll have the cavity empty. Then, once your garlic and onions are all done, cooked, and that'll take you anywhere from 15 minutes to half an hour, it just depends. These are a beautiful caramel color. They're just lovely, and they're going to be delicious. And they essentially don't cook anymore in the center of this chicken. And you're going to go ahead and get every last bit of the garlic and onion into your cavity here. I know that you're going to do a much better job at this than I am. I don't want to spend my time doing that, though. I've got other things to tell you. So spoon these into the chicken, and of course they are going to just permeate the flesh of this chicken, and add some of your herbs, all or part, whatever you want. And then go ahead and brush it with a little of the oil in the pan. I heated that up so that it wouldn't be gloppy when I put it on, and then I made it awfully hot to work with that garlic and onion. And you just want to brush the chicken all over. It's always a toss-up about whether or not you should brush the chicken before you truss it or whether you should brush it afterwards, and I can never really make up my mind. If you have some objection to the parson's nose, or you can cut it off, but I frequently find it helps to use as a point for trussing. This is a trussing needle. They're hard to find. You have to go to a good cookware shop to get them. And go there and pull your chicken all together. Now you can just tie the legs together if you want to. What you're trying to do is to make a package here so that it cooks evenly from top to bottom. And what you also want to do is to keep it so that those legs don't splay out in case you want to serve your chicken whole. It won't look all, like this with the legs like that. It'll look pretty and finished. That's really the reason for it. If you don't have time for it, it's okay. Now, this is a smaller needle, and I don't guess you can see, but it's not going to go all the way through easily without a lot of push and shove. So what I'm going to do just now is just go back and tie my legs all up together. And you could even just tie it with your own. And if you wanted to, you could pull that parson's nose up there to completely close the cavity. Just make a knot, and tie it, and cut off your excess string. There we go. He looks a little odd, doesn't he? Chuck the little wings under if you don't want to brown the tips, but I like the wings browned. Now, throw them in your roasting pan and pour in a half a cup of chicken broth. Bake it at 425 for about an hour. Then you remove it from the oven, turn it, and add a cup more of chicken stock. And then you bake it another hour, turning it occasionally until the chicken registers 180 degrees on a meat thermometer. When you put the thermometer into the thigh of the chicken, into that area right in there. But be careful, because lots of times, particularly with these big chickens, you don't get it to read as accurately as you would like. And so I'm going to show you what to do if you get it just ready to carve and it's not done. Now you remove the chicken and set it aside, and go ahead to your pan and add another half a cup of chicken stock, a tablespoon of the herbs, and if you want to, a half a cup of balsamic vinegar. And balsamic vinegar is this wonderful aged vinegar that comes from Italy. It's just marvelous. It's sweeter than what you think of as a vinegar. In fact, lots of times when I use it, I use no oil in a salad dressing, for instance. And it's aged in oak barrels. I have some at home, a real tiny amount that cost me a fortune. Other people bring back jewels from Europe. Me, I bring back vinegar. And I have it at home, and I've been saving it for that special occasion. I have some that was 25 and some that was 50. Now go ahead and put your garlic and onions in here. But you can use the grocery store type, and I wouldn't use that expensive, elegant vinegar in this particular dish, I would use the grocery store type, which is much less expensive. And I put the garlic and onions from the cavity of the chicken in there, add them into the pan, and I'm boiling that down by half. I'm going to taste it and add more vinegar if I desire it. That's called deglazing the pan, and that is a very fancy name for getting all the goodness off of the sides of the pan to make a lovely thick sauce and boiling it down. Now I want to show you how to carve a chicken. And, of course, if you can do this chicken ahead of time, then it'll cool enough to easily remove the fat from the pan, or you can skim it off now. Sometimes I use a little spoon to get it off, or even a paper towel, and you season it with salt and pepper. Now, here's your chicken. You can choose to serve him whole and beautiful like this, but if you do, it looks wonderful, but you might get into a tight at the table and find out that when you cut into the chicken that he's pink, and then you've got a problem because everybody's sitting down. So you always have to decide, and look, lo and behold, this guy is just a little pink, even though the skin of him looked beautiful, and when we put the thermometer in, well, we really didn't. We really knew we were undercooking it. But even, it happens this way lots of times anyway. Lots of times, actually, it's fully cooked, but the chicken looks pink now, and you know your guests won't eat it. So here's what you do. The first thing that you do is go back and do what I just did. Cut between the body of the chicken and the thigh. Then go back, and if you can look underneath here, you can actually see the fatty place here in the chicken sometimes, which will tell you where you can cut right into the joint of the chicken. And that would separate the thigh from the leg. Let me just see where I've got it, because I couldn't find it like that. I looked. Now, I don't want to make a mess of this. There it goes. There we are. Nice fit. And you can run that right back into your oven, you see, while you were carving the rest and while you were reheating everything. But you're supposed to let a chicken rest. Go back now again. Back here is the best part of the chicken, which is called the oyster. You can eat that yourself, or you can pull this out if you didn't get that backbone with it and just tuck it right underneath there as a treat for the person that gets the thigh. If you wanted to cut it another way, you could go ahead and pull it back just like this, all the way like this, and then cut down with your nice scissors. They are making some terrific scissors these days for scissors, particularly for chicken, I think. And you've got your oyster now tucked right into that piece of meat. So that's an alternate way of doing it. And go back like that, and you can cut that in half again. You don't need to see me do it again. Now go back now and cut off. Oop, this guy didn't have all of his stuff taken out. There we are. That's what would go into your pan boiling down. And go back now and remove this. You could throw that into your pan to make your sauce even more lustrous if you wanted. Now go back, cut your backbone off, and you're really not cutting through any bone. And you may hear a crunching sound, but those are just those tiny little rib bones that really are nothing to cut through. And then go back now and decide what you want to do. The hardest part is to cut right here through what we call the pulley bone or the wishbone. But once you do that, it cuts right in half like that. See how easy that is? And then you can cut off the wing if you'd like, or you can leave it whole for your presentation, or you can cut another way that I learned at the Cordon Bleu, which is to give this person with the wing a portion of the breast itself, in which case you have just a little snipping once again through that pulley bone and cutting across. And you can just pull that out. You'll see you're not even cutting through the wing of the bone of the chicken. And now, here's something else I'd like to show you. You've probably seen lettuce like this at your local supermarket. It's sold with the roots still attached, so you know how really fresh it is. I visited the kitchens at Epcot Center, part of Walt Disney World, near Orlando, Florida. Chef Rick Pastina demonstrated what to do when you take the lettuce home. Slice the entire root pack away, then gently break off the leaves. Be sure to always wash your lettuce before you serve it. The lettuce prepared at Epcot was grown hydroponically in The Land, a state-of-the-art pavilion sponsored by Kraft General Foods. This tango leaf lettuce is grown in triangular platforms, which saves space while collecting a maximum of light. Roots are sprayed with nutrients dissolved in water about every 2 minutes for 15 seconds. The water and plant foods are recycled at Walt Disney World. as they would be on a long space voyage or the hydroponic farm of tomorrow. Mickey Mouse showed me that in another part of the Future World exhibit, lettuces float on a sea of nutrients. Tiny plants in 1-inch seedling cups go directly into netted cups affixed to polystyrene flotation material, just like those you may buy and take home.
For nearly a century, LeCreuset's colorful French cookware has been a favorite in kitchens around the world. From its bold finishes and uncompromised quality to its easy-to-clean materials, the brand's range of iconic products are as easy to use as they are to love.
Now, I just want to very quickly remind you about cooking that chicken all the way through. If you cut into it and it was not done, you could just carve it like I did, lay it in a heat-proof pan, and run it into the oven until it came out to 180 degrees. It's just as simple as that. It might take you 10 or 15 minutes. But if you know that ahead of time, you have all the power. It's when you get there and you try to carve at the table that you look like the fool and you can't get everything done. Now, for company, you would just take that whole platter and reheat it in the oven just before you were ready to serve, about 15 minutes, say. You might even cover it with foil, but if you did that, it might make the skin a little steamy, so keep it uncovered and just keep a good eye on it. For dessert, since we've had butter and other things, although you did skim the grease off of that sauce, didn't you? You might want to consider doing something that doesn't have any cholesterol in it. What I want to do is to make everything that I eat taste good. And then I look at my whole diet and I kind of try to pull away things that are too rich, say, from an overall meal. So in this case, a chocolate marbled angel food cake. And this is a real original recipe. I think Ray developed it one day with me when we were talking about what we could do since our daffodil cake was so popular. Here are the ingredients. 2 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa powder, 3 tablespoons of boiling water, a teaspoon of almond extract, 14 egg whites. That's about 1 3/4 cup. It's 1 egg white is 1 ounce. 1 teaspoon cream of tartar, 1 3/4 cups of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 1 1/4 cups of flour that's been sifted. Now you mix the unsweetened cocoa powder, the almond extract, and the boiling water, and you just set it aside to cool. And I'm going to do that right now for you. I've actually already done it. And here's your 3 tablespoons. Just whisk that together and let it get cool. And this water is not as boiling as it should have been, so I had some made ahead just to be sure that I got what I wanted. And then you beat your egg whites and try to get a rotary whisk, a whisk that goes like this rather than a stand mixer that goes like that, or beat them by hand in a copper bowl. The cream of tartar stabilizes the egg white, and you start it a little slow, and then you move it up faster. And then when you've got it in nice soft peaks, then you beat in the sugar and the salt and the vanilla. This is nowhere near soft peaks yet, but I'm just going to add it so you can get it in your mind. So you just add the sugar, and that's really when it's all beaten up, and then the salt and the vanilla. And I really always mix the salt and the sugar together so that it would be disseminated equally. Now, you sift your flour, and you gradually fold them into the egg whites. And through the magic of television, I just happen to have 14 extra egg whites already whipped under the counter, just to show you. Now you take 2 cups of the batter, and I have to fold in the flour first, and then I'm going to take 2 cups of this out and fold it in. I just use that small sifter to sift my flour. This makes it lighter, and I'm going to put it in. Lots of times when I'm in the mixer, I will just go ahead in the mixer and I didn't show you how glossy and pretty that was. Let me just reach in here and see if you can see this pretty batter. There it is. It's glossy and shiny. That's the way it's supposed to look. I'll do it one more time. Isn't that beautiful? There. Now fold in your flour. And lots of times I do this right in the mixer once I get the sugar up, the egg white mixture up just the way that I want them. Just remember when you're separating the eggs that any egg yolk into your egg whites, and it will not whip. And I'm going to show you how to separate an egg yolk because I just see my egg right down there, and I'm going to show you how to do that whole process in a minute. Now, go ahead now and remove 2 cups of the batter. I think it's 2 cups. And you're going to get your flour incorporated perfectly. Lots of times I just use a whisk to get in it. If I'm not sure, I go through with the whisk. But it's hard to see this white on white. Don't make a mess. Do as I say, not as I do. Now go ahead and fold in this cocoa mixture into the set-aside mixture. Okay? So fold this into here. Or actually, I could have just folded those egg whites, that reserved egg white mixture, into the main base. Oh, I can just see all the letters now telling me that I made a mess. So I'll go ahead and do this so that you can see that I am immaculate in this bowl. Here we go. Here we go. And fold this in here. Now, we're going to start putting into our 10-inch ungreased tube pan. And this is the way that tube pan looks. You just, comes right out. But you don't want to grease it because if you do, the egg whites don't have anything to climb on. That pan bottom is removable. Now, you pour put some of this in to your pan. And your flour should all be completely incorporated. Smooth this out here, and then pour the chocolate batter over the light one. Right in here. Move there, and then you put the remaining light batter over the top, and you're going to give it a swirl. This is so good, and people that can't eat cholesterol really can make do with this little tad of cocoa, can't they? So it's a real treat for people that are concerned about it. Put this all in here. Oh, please do it tidier than I do. I have too big of a spatula here. That's part of my problem. Now, don't knock against your pan like that. You'll ruin your good pan. Knock against your hand to get rid of the extra. Oop, don't lick your hands. Give it a swirl. Put it in the middle of a 350-degree oven for 45 to 50 minutes. It'll be springy, and it pulls away from the sides of the pan. Clean up your counter so that it's immaculate. Let me show you real quickly how to separate an egg. Always have 3 bowls when you crack. Crack on the counter. Put an egg white into here, the egg yolk into your first bowl, and then move your egg white into your finished one. Now over here I have this cake, and it's setting up on a bottle to cool. Let me just move it off of here for you. It's a bottle of balsamic vinegar, actually. Go around it with your knife around the edge, which I did, and then all you have to do now is to get it off of the bottom here, which you just do very carefully with a knife. Or you could even use these skewers if you'd like and just go all the way around. That goes the easiest way. And then a nice trick. Perfect. And then it'll shake right off. Yep, promise. Here we go. And flip it out onto your pan. Cut your angel food cake with a serrated knife. There we go. And it's done. Now let me show you how to make your stuffed squash real quickly here. Get 10 small to medium yellow summer squash. Have 6 tablespoons of butter, 2 onions chopped, 2 garlic cloves chopped, 1/3 cup of breadcrumbs, 2 heaping tablespoons of finely chopped thyme, 1/2 cup of Parmesan, 1/2 cup of grated cheese. And the first thing that you do is to cut your summer squash in half, just like this, and scoop out the center part. And I just work your knife like that, and then that's done. Or you can go ahead and make it even to better pieces and just cut it into and chop it. They've cut a whole squash up here and chopped it as opposed to scooping out the sides, so it looks a little more formal, but you don't need to do that. And I've got my burner on cooking, and you just turn that all on, let that all cook together. Now, meanwhile, you throw these little boats, which is what these are, into some boiling water to cover, or I put them in the microwave and cook them until they're just tender. Don't overcook them because they'll separate. Drain them on the paper towel. And you've got your butter and your onions and your garlic, and the insides all cooking. You add your breadcrumbs and your cheese, breadcrumbs and your thyme. Mix that all together, and then you add your cheese and your Swiss cheese. You just want to be sure it's not too hot to melt it. And then you stuff your squash. And here it is right here. I'll just stuff one. I've got some mixture left over. Just fill this up, and you put them into a buttered oven-proof dish. Dot them with just a little butter, which I've already got cut up here, and bake them for 15 minutes or so in a 350-degree oven or until the cheese melts. And they are so good. And now the onion and tomato salad. You know, ideally you would peel your tomatoes. It's really not nice to serve them with the skin on. But if you must not peel them, then go ahead and just slice them. You have 1 to 2 Vidalia or Walla Walla onions. Walla Walla is the Washington onion that tries to rival the Vidalia, but I am prejudiced. 3 to 4 tomatoes, 1/3 of a cup of red wine vinegar, a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, 2/3 of a cup of olive oil, a little bit of sugar in case it's too oily. And then you want some Bibb lettuce, arugula, or radicchio, which is the pretty red lettuce. Any one of those 3 will do. And 4 heaping tablespoons of finely chopped basil or thyme or oregano, 3 to 4, whatever you want. You just slice your Vidalias, but you can use a Bermuda. This is a Vidalia. Let's see, I'll put it right where you can see it. That's a Vidalia. And here's a pretty Bermuda. It's not quite as good as a Vidalia, but off-season you have no choice. You slice your tomatoes, get as ripe as you can get. This is not as ripe as I prefer, but that's life today. And I wouldn't serve one that was pink. And you alternate your layers of the onions and tomatoes on a platter. And meanwhile, you just whisk everything all together here for your vinaigrette. Vinegar, mustard, and olive oil and vinegar. Taste it. Add a little ground pepper, sugar, and salt. You add the sugar only when you're sure you have enough salt in there. You can't add any more. It's too oily. And drizzle it over your pretty tomatoes and lettuce. And now let me show you everything all together. Put a little basil on there. To me, there is something very elegant but still very satisfying about a perfectly roasted chicken, as in this roasting chicken with garlic. The rest of the meal complements the feeling of satisfaction, too. Crab soup, stuffed squash, an onion and tomato salad, and a chocolate marbled angel food cake. I think you're going to like every bit of it.